Welcome to VeloUnlocked. In this episode, we are joined by Cellucci, a left-handed pitching prospect in the Boston Red Sox organization. Brendan attended Tulane prior to being selected in the 12th round of the 2019 MLB draft. Brendan is also a host of the Culture Church podcast. This episode is brought to you by Ardor Energy, VeloU's go-to energy source. Focus, hydrate, energize.
And I'm excited too because we're gonna get to see you throw after and everything, and just pick your brain. I know you've had a journey here, and I think it's cool to try and understand from yourself just what's gone into that journey, and nobody's is a smooth path, and I think ultimately, right? So we work with a lot of high school, college guys, and then we obviously have our pro population, right? But what I always love to talk to people about is with our pro population, when we're working with them, 90% of the conversations that I have while they're playing have to do with their mental landscape. Nothing to do with work on this with your mechanics, or maybe we need a little more usage here.
For sure.
All that information is readily available to them. Mm-hmm. So I just in reading through some of your stuff and going through a lot of just your social pages and everything, just hearing you discuss, the breath and different things like that. So I'm just excited to go into all those things. Yeah, man, thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm excited to just go through and learn, about you, about your career, and about what makes you tick. And I know you got a lot of passions outside of baseball too, which is really cool. And want to learn about them all, so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor. I've seen you guys all over social media and stuff, and being able to be here and see what you guys are working with. It's awesome. You can tell you guys put a lot of time and investment, and also heart into this stuff. It's not just we're trying to bring in money and stuff. I can tell that you guys really care about this game and care about the people that you're training with and working with. So it's really awesome to see, and it's just it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Cool. Yeah, appreciate it. So listen, without going too deep into this, let's start back. You're coming out of high school, right? At what point in high school are you realizing, okay, hey, I can achieve my dreams, I can be a big leaguer, and obviously you went to Tulane out of high school,
yeah.
But what in that path, when are you realizing this is a real possibility?
So it's interesting you asked that, because I didn't feel it for a long time. I always chased it. I always wanted that. That was the end goal, the to be in the big leagues, stuff like that. But I never truly had that belief in myself for a long time. It was more just I was chasing it. Now I knew that when I started to gain some velo in high school, lefty, throwing pretty hard, that's going to open some eyes, give you some opportunities. But I didn't know how far it would take me. I talked about this a little while ago with one of my buddies, was that a lot of the times that I was good in high school, especially as an immature kid, I had to make myself really angry, because that emotion would block any doubt that I had. And when I got to the upper levels, starting to play every day, I couldn't force myself into that emotion over and over and over again, because that's not who I am. Mm-hmm. So to be honest with you, I truly didn't know that I could be in the big leagues. That granted, I still have a little way, a ways to go, but I didn't have that belief in myself until honestly maybe late college, till I kind of got into pro ball a little bit. Which was a big eye-opening for me, because it's a totally different mentality once you take the mound with that belief. And I think that although maybe it's later rather than sooner, it's all a part of my journey, and I'm kind of glad that it happened later, because if it happened earlier, maybe I wouldn't be the same person I am today,
100%, yeah. So what has to happen for you to realize the anger is in, because at the end of the day, right, and you said it so eloquently and described it so well, but emotions are just energy, right? And we're allowing them to come to the surface in whatever one seems the most easy for us to showcase it. Absolutely. And express this energy. But what had to happen in your career or in your life for you to realize, hey, anger is not my route, that's not who I am?
Inconsistency. That's what really had to happen, because if I was able to force myself that when I was in high school, when I would start for us once a week, I could do that. College, it became a little harder, but I could still force it 4 times a week. I'd have a bad outing here and then. But once I got to pro ball, and I realized that I couldn't force that, and my outings started turning into either I'm walking a couple guys, giving up a couple hits because I'm only throwing fastballs because I can't control my slider. I'm just throwing it as hard as I can. And then some games I'm locked in and I'm striking out the side. But it can't be like one or the other. I need to bring that same guy out each time. And what really had to kind of open my eyes to that was going through the adversity, going through the struggles. And when I was able to go through those struggles, I look back on it and I'm grateful for it. But in the moment, it was hard. And there are times where you're like, I'm out on the mound. I'm like, what am I doing here? And there are times where I'm like, nobody can touch me. But it can't be that. That discrepancy between outing to outing. I need to bring the same person out each time. And that was where I really had to go in depth to the mental game. And when I was able to find myself and find the person that I can bring out to the mound every day, that was when I started becoming a lot more consistent on the mound. And the results started becoming better and better over a longer period of time.
What tactics did you use in order to get yourself into that mindset or discover who you are?
Honestly, it was a little more just kind of trial and error. There was one, and when I came back, I like studying Japanese pitchers a lot. So I made this past season, I was going through a tough stretch where it was a combination of a little tricep tendonitis that I was trying to work through. Because of that, I wasn't throwing hard. I wasn't throwing it where I wanted. When I did throw it where I wanted, I was getting absolutely smashed around the yard. And they put me on the dead list for a little bit, and I made some mechanical changes. I was like, look, when I come back, I need to have a different mentality to this. I can't go in and try and make up for a couple months of the season in one outing. So when I kind of clicked with that, I was like, maybe you need to go out there in a more relaxed state. You need to understand that this is just one game. It is not going to determine your season or anything like that. And I came out against the Blue Jays AA, and we were it was a tight game, and I came in and I threw 3 innings, the last 3 innings of the game, and I had 7 punchies, and but it was all in such a relaxed take it one pitch out of a time state. And I was like, that felt so kind of smooth out there, and feeling that smooth, relaxed state really resonated with me well. So I'm like, let's try this again. Did it again, did well. And then the rest of this past season, I was dominant, not because I was going out there trying to force it by people, but I was just kind of in a relaxed state, treating every day as just one game. And then it became even more simplified. I would treat each pitch as its own individual pitch. If I execute this pitch, great. If I don't, who cares? It's over. It's in the past. And being able to realize that really helped me understand what it takes to be a big leaguer and what it takes to have that focus for each individual pitch and not worry about what's happened or what may happen.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So, I mean, the idea there is you're incredibly present in that moment, which is arguably the most difficult thing on the planet to do, right? Oftentimes we'll have our kids wear a rubber band. Pain is a great way to let yourself know this is where my feet are right now. It's often difficult to ignore the pain, right?
Yeah.
The sting of the band. But what I found awesome in how you're going through that is you were creating this alter ego in the past that was this, angry, super aggressive individual. And we talk a lot with our guys of just about finding who you are. Who is your alter ego? Give them a name. You don't have to be the same guy on the field, off the field, but you have to make sure that is actually representing who you can be and the type of person you are.
Absolutely.
And the faking it part of that, like you saw, will always end up wearing down.
Absolutely. And the interesting part of it too is just everyone's their own individual. What works for me may not work for someone else. If someone else needs to create that alter ego and it needs to be an angry person, go do that. Go bring that guy to the mound. But I think the most important thing is just being able to bring the same person to the mound each time. Because if you don't bring the same person to the mound each time, how can you expect the same results each time?
Okay. And how can you learn, right?
Exactly.
You're constantly mixing it up. Was there anywhere else in your life that you tried to utilize this tactic and then help you practice that?
Probably in other sports as well. I've always been like that's usually been my life is just like school and sports. That's always been what it is. And so like I swam in high school. I played football for a little bit in high school. It was really easy to use in football because like it's like you got one game a week, bring all that energy out there. And I think that's more where it translated was like that's the kind of mentality you should have entering like a battle, or like essentially even if you put it on that scale like a war with the other team. So I think I tried to bring that, but the thing that I didn't understand was just how much you need to bring it. Mm-hmm. Football, you play once a week. Swimming, we had one, maybe two meets a week. Baseball, we're playing 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. So it's bringing like essentially not who I am is mentally exhausting day in and day out. So you just got to find out who you are and what like brings you success, and just try and bring that each time.
How do you practice this, like utilizing that mentality in your training? So let's say like your bullpens or even your catch play. Mm-hmm. How do you try and keep that same consistency in that realm?
It's kind of going back to what you said about being present. Just focusing on each rep as it is. It's this one rep in the moment. Same thing as if I'm on the mound. Like if this rep's bad, it's over. Who cares? If I execute this rep good, let's see if we can do it again. And then and let it snowball. But at the end of the day, I mean, there are other aspects too. I like to journal. One big part of journaling is like saying 3 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that I did well today, 3 things that I can do better. And it's keeping me within this, this simple, like this day. Mm-hmm. It's not worrying about what happened yesterday or what may happen tomorrow. It's keeping me like in that moment. And granted, like it's reflecting on the entire day. So not specifically that moment, but it's reflecting on where I am, where my feet are. And another thing is meditation. Now I made a goal for this new year to try and meditate every day. Granted, I haven't been able to do it every day, but I'm trying to do it as much as I can. And when you meditate, like I think it's just a good way of, if you're able to focus, if you're able to kind of follow something on YouTube where that helps you keep in the present moment. I think it's really important for people to have a little bit of time to like just let their mind be just calm and free, and not worry about all the things that are happening in life, and just focus on, like I said before, where your feet are, you know?
How do you go about meditating? Because I know obviously the scientific principles of meditation have been proven time and time again, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's beneficial and it's positive, yet it's still so incredibly daunting for a lot of people to go and do, because you know, maybe they feel like, hey, I can't sit still, I can't do that, and I'm racing nonstop. So how do you go about meditating that has worked best for you?
I totally agree with you on that. Like, it's like, personally for me, I have a tough time sitting still, like today. But I think a good way to like kind of intro yourself into it is find a space where you're not going to be disturbed. Like sometimes I even do it in my car, and just put on a little bit of a YouTube video, help someone with like a voice to guide you into that. Like sometimes the ones that I really like, the voice will tell you, okay, try and feel yourself resting in this chair. Like, so it's like bringing you to like what you feel or what you're hearing or what you're seeing in that present moment. And that, like, focusing on that helps lead you to not worry or think about things out of that present moment. So I think that's important, is to, if you're getting into it, have that voice, like have someone in the background trying to guide you through it, so you start to get used to it. Because the times that I have tried it on my own, I can't lie, there have been times where I start, like, my mind drifts into just other things that I'm thinking about throughout the day, not necessarily negative or positive, but just like other things that we go about our days thinking about. So I think, like I said, if you're able to have someone help guide you in it, it's a good way to kind of wade into the water of meditation instead of trying to dive in the deep end.
Yeah, one of the best quotes I've ever heard, and I'm blanking on who said this, but it was, the power of meditation is not in your mind escaping you or drifting away. It's the recognition of that and then pulling it back.
That's a really good point. Yes,
and I think so many people get so frustrated with meditation in the sense that they they feel like, oh, like my mind was racing the whole time, and they lose sight of the fact that they pulled it back to center 20 times.
Yeah.
That even if it was 2 minutes that they were trying to do it, I know for myself personally, I have to actually walk in order to meditate or find some sort of escape where I can be active while I'm doing it, because the restlessness of sitting drives me insane.
Yeah.
So
and it's like to each their own, however you want to do it. And it's a really good point, because like it's just like everything else in life, you're not going to be perfect. I'm not able to just sit here and go in meditation for 20 minutes, but it's about when, I guess, adversity strikes, whether it's in your life or just kind of drifting you away from that meditation. It's how can you pull yourself back from it? How can you recover from it? Not just trying to be perfect and then be disappointed if something happens that is not going along to your plan.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes too, right? The mistake is to seek perfection, right? And as opposed to seeking the adversity.
Yeah.
Find the moments and times where your mind will drift and feel how powerful you can be to pull it back, and understand the power that your mind actually has, as opposed to just succumbing to the power every time it shows itself.
Yes, that's an absolutely great point. I totally agree.
So, going out of high school, right, and you obviously commit to Tulane, that had to be an incredible experience. I mean, obviously a incredibly renowned school, especially baseball perspective. We have some guys there right now, and what's that experience like, going from being superstar in Pennsylvania to now you're down in New Orleans, away from everybody, your network, and now you're a freshman on campus in a big pond.
And no, that's a great point to bring up, because no matter what high school guy you are, everyone's their guy at their high school. And when you go to college, everybody was you when you were in high school. So I think it's actually funny. I have the shirt underneath this. I love the quote, like, be uncommon amongst the uncommon, because it's not about like getting to the point that you want to be at. It's about what are you going to do to stand out at the point you're going to be at. And so that was big for me, was when I went into school. Now, I'm glad you touched on adversity too, because I'll go into this a little bit. I didn't go to school immediately my first freshman fall. I actually had cheated on a test in high school, and they sent a letter to Tulane. My high school was, like, it was a private school. It was pretty prestigious. Like, they took that seriously. And they sent a letter to Tulane, and Tulane said you couldn't come your first semester. So I was like, looked at it more of like, I'm not just coming in and like facing like all these guys that were uncommon. I'm behind them too. And the interesting part of that was that was a big year for me, because when I came in, it did a lot of character building for me, because I felt like I had to prove myself. I didn't feel like any of these guys liked me, that I was just coming in and they're just like, who's this guy coming in second semester? He missed all of the fall. Like, who does he think he is? And I was like, I got to prove that I can be on this team.
Right, creating all that in your own head, though.
Yes,
yeah.
All in my own head. And all this pressure, like, fell on my shoulders, and I had a really bad freshman year. I got the Y's, if you know what that is, you know.
Yeah.
And it was bad, but I mean, looking back on it, it is important for my journey. It was important to go through that. So it definitely wasn't like going into college. It wasn't traditional. Like, granted, like I put a lot more adversity and pressure on myself.
Sure.
Being immature and stuff like that. But for anybody that is going in, just understand that it's just about what you can do to stand out amongst the standouts. But at the same time, obviously, you need to understand those are your brothers. I think I've never felt more camaraderie and family-oriented like space than when I was in college.
It's awesome. So you come out of this freshman year. How do you right the ship? How do you like?
Well, it took a little bit of like a fire like that was like lit under me. I actually got my scholarship taken away after that year. And
what a year.
What a year. Yeah, what a year, right? Like, oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my gosh, should I even like play baseball anymore? I even contemplated like trying to walk onto the football team or something like that. But it really lit a fire under me. And right after I got out of that meeting where they told me my scholarship was taken away, I remember it clear as day. I go out with my buddy Ross, and Ross was a senior that year. We were both, or maybe a junior, sorry, but we're both really close because Ross actually faced a lot of adversity in college too, and we were throwing partners, and we both kind of like confided in each other and stuff like that. And I said to him, I was like, Ross, I'm going to go out this summer and I'm going to shove and I'm going to come back sophomore year. I was a draft eligible sophomore. I'm getting drafted. I'm getting out of here. And that was exactly what I did. And it was one of those moments where like granted, like you go through adversity and it was over a long period of time, but you go through adversity and then you come out triumphant. You make your way back from it. Kind of like how we talked about in meditation, you stray from it and you come back. And it was a really big moment for me.
Let me ask you this. How much of you believed that you were going to do that? Because what I find most impactful for people when they talk about those moments, right, that were defining in their life, and ultimately this sounds as though it became a rock for you. It's a stable platform now that you can build the next level of confidence off of. Oftentimes, in order for that to occur, they have to kind of believe in what they're saying. Yeah. But there's also got to kind of be this underlying, like, I don't really know if I can do that, but if I can do this, I'm a new man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree. And I that's, you hit it on the head. I honestly, that was kind of how I felt. It was like, I know I can do this. I don't know if I will, but I'm going to do everything in my power too, because like I said, it lit a fire under me. And it was like, I'm going in this direction. I'm taking this as far as I can, and if it don't work out, it don't work out. But at least I know I put my all into it.
What talk about how, if you can remember and recall, how that built over that year. So you're in the summer. You know, the new environment has to help, I'm sure, right? Like clean slate. You're out throwing somewhere else, and talk about how the building of each successful thing now leads you to coming back and dominating in your sophomore year.
Yeah, so I went to the Cal Ripken League, which is in Maryland, played with the Redbirds. It was a lot of fun, and it was around a lot of guys like me who maybe didn't get that much playing time at very big colleges. We had a really good team, some Ole Miss guys, some North Carolina guys. It was awesome. And it was kind of like this coming out moment for a lot of us, where it was like, there's no fans, there's no pressure, it's just you go out and ball. And that was what I tried to do, was they let me be a starter there, and every start I went out, I said, I'm not going to worry about throwing strikes or anything like that. I'm just going to go out and ball. I'm just going to go out and compete. And that was what I did, and I started throwing more strikes, and I started like really getting like into my groove. And the moment that I knew that it really kind of could, I can, like, it was more of like more confidence was built in me in this journey, was when I got called up to the Cape League. So at the end of the year, if you, like, obviously if guys reach inning limits, there's needs to be more guys taken up to those teams. And it was actually where I met Brendan White. So I got called up there, and I didn't throw much. I was like the young guy, just kind of learning, and we had a really good coach, pitching coach up there, who helped me with my mechanics and stuff. And I came back in the fall, and I was throwing like 94 consistently. And when I saw that, and I saw like kind of like the refinements I made to become both better on the mound from a mechanical standpoint, but also like from a command standpoint, I was like, I can do this. Like I can't, like it. There's that how we talked about that confidence in myself where I can do this, but also like a little bit of doubt as well, like, can I do this? And that the confidence started to like
grow, doubt starts to
and then
evaporate.
Exactly. And when we were in the fall, it was my first fall now, there were scouts there for Cody Hosey, who was our third baseman at the time. He went first round to the Dodgers, and they started seeing me, and they started seeing this lefty in the zone now, throwing 94. And then I started talking to scouts, and I'm like, I can do this. I get it. And it just started like stepping.
It's amazing, these ladders.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have the perfect sophomore year, but I did what I needed to do, and I got drafted by the Red Sox, which is one of my favorite teams growing up. And I was like that. No, I didn't make it yet, but I did what I needed to do, and I'm gonna go keep pursuing it.
A new level achieved. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like, see, this is what I find interesting is like we're learning, you know, like everybody wants to know like, oh, what's the special sauce? What's this? The special sauce is adversity. The special sauce is finding the next tier of confidence that you can actually go to and realizing, hey, I have a bedrock here that I can always come back to, and I know I have this, and I need to lean on that at times, but I need to now find this next layer of confidence. And the problem is this too, is you can't go looking for the thing that's going to create it. The adversity's kind of got to come, you know, to you, and you got to experience it and seek it out almost at times. But ultimately what ends up happening is I think we have all these opportunities in life, and I think most of them pass us by because we're not aware enough to accept that they're there and or recognize that we have this opportunity to grow. So all right, so you get drafted 12th round, and you've accomplished this unbelievable task that you set out for yourself. I mean, because legitimately, right, you're talking, I mean, if somebody were to look at that, were you out of the pen, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so like all these stories you hear, can't get drafted if you're coming out of the pen, right? You had a abysmal freshman year. There's no way this is happening, right? What was the difference in velocity, by the way?
From freshman to sophomore, it was like 89, 90 to like, I touched a 97 at the end of the year, so like 94 to 96 mostly.
So huge rise in velo, right? So obviously made some changes, and like what I always find interesting too, right, is people are always like, oh, what mechanical adjustments did you make with this? But everything you just talked about was a mindset.
Yeah.
100%. Right? And it's like, hey, I'm going to go out and compete as opposed to worrying about the minutia of how perfect do I need to be, right? When we bring it back to like this seeking perfection, and pitchers are like unequivocally the worst at this.
Yeah.
Because, and how would you not, right? We have every metric under the sun that we have to pay attention to. What was the spin? What was the horizontal release side? What was the VAA? What was this? What was, oh, you're too normal. You're too not normal. It's ridiculous. Where at the end of the day, you can end up willing the ball by guys because you're just flat out competing. You're out competing there.
Absolutely, and like that's why you see such a large array of different guys in the big leagues. Like you'll see guys like Dallas Keuchel and Zach Greinke who are throwing 88-mile-an-hour changeups and fastballs and dicing guys up, and then you got guys like Yohan Duran who's throwing 99-mile-an-hour splinkers, and so like the array is so large not because of like that there's like different types of like there's one secret sauce like you said, right. It's because you can be different and have the mentality of a big leaguer and to get yourself there. And I like that you brought up the secret sauce part because I like saying this whenever like I have a chance to be on some sort of platform. Whenever like I love social media, I think it's really important. It's helping people grow in like businesses and everything, but what you see on social media is the best version of everything. So because we're so consumed in social media, we think the people that we look up to, all that stuff is perfect. Like they don't do any wrong. Like if you look at Mike Trout or LeBron James's Instagram, it doesn't look like they ever have like a single sliver of adversity, but they do. Everybody goes through different things to get them where they are. And so just because you go through adversity doesn't mean that you're behind those people or that you're different from those people. It just means that this is the opportunity for you to grow just like they've grown behind the scenes.
Yeah, 100%. So well said. There's such a dichotomy with social media. I mean, I've told Kenny forever I wouldn't even have one if it wasn't the fact that we have a business. And I guess the opportunity to share information is always awesome. I think that's incredible. But the manner in which we have to do it because of the way in which it's consumed sucks. If we could afford an enormous amount of time and really go in depth and try and explain things and get people to understand them, sure, that'd be amazing. But unfortunately, that's not the way the world consumes stuff. So let's go into now into your minor league career here, right? So you're coming out of this like huge like triumphant victory for yourself, right? Where you have basically told the world, like, told you,
and then it's smooth sailing. No, life's gonna hit you with like waves of adversity, no matter where you are in life. So as much as like I'm grateful for this career, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were ups and downs throughout it as well, like I kind of explained of this past year. But getting there, I can't say there's a single day where I haven't been grateful for it.
So in your first year, right? So you're carrying this big high and you're going through this.
Yeah.
What are some of the adversities you're now facing, and how are you utilizing what you've learned in the past by yourself? And how hard is it to constantly remind yourself of what you've learned?
It's sometimes like my mind can like spur from it, but I think it's like going back to like the journaling and stuff like that, just trying to stay in the present moment. There's a lot of times where sometimes I'll look at it and say like how far I have to go, especially early in the minors, where it's like sometimes if you're shoving, you're like, I think I could be at the next level, but that's out of your control. You can't worry about things out of your control. So it does like take your mind away from like essentially how far you've come. So I think that's what was so important for me, is not like reminding myself as much how far I have to go. It's more just reminding myself in those moments where I think about it, how far I have come from it.
The reflection on those moments is often very difficult for people, because we tend to, just as humans, we over accentuate the negative. It just becomes that much louder in our head, and we often neglect or forget the positive moments that have led to the scenarios where we're in. So I've heard you talk before. I think it was on your podcast, and you gave it as advice to I think Quincy Bright, to say find your breath. What does that mean to you?
So the one thing that I've noticed is that in my career is that if my breath is going really quick, heart's racing, if I have a bad outing, it feels like I was out there for 30 seconds. It feels like it went by like that. Like, and I'm like, what just happened out there? There's so many things that I could have done better out there. And Quincy talked about it too, was that he, first of all, shout out Quincy Bright, one of the most fine young men that I've ever met. Like he's so polite, so like, and he's got a huge career ahead of him. I'm so excited for him. But he talked about when he was in 14U Select Fest, which is like the 14U All-American game, and he went through the same thing, where he went like it was super fast, he was nervous, and then it felt like it was over so quick. And so that's why like talking about like kind of treating each pitch as its individual has helped me so much, is that when I'm able to do that, it's easier to kind of take deep breaths, stay in the moment, and like I'm a reliever, so I'm out there for like one inning. I want to make that feel as long as I can. I want to be in the game for as long as I can. So when I'm able to kind of settle that breath, keep a slow heartbeat, it feels like I'm out there for longer, and that's what I love doing. I don't want to be out there for what it feels like 30 seconds. I want to feel like what it would be like out there for 30 minutes. I hope I'm not out there for 30 minutes, but at the same time, like if I have a successful outing and I can remember each pitch from it, or I can remember like the like kind of the details of all of it, that's when I know that I was keeping my breath. I was doing a good job out there. I feel like present. Exactly.
So, are there any, like, do you do any breathing tactics outside of the game?
To be honest with you, no, but there have been times where, like, to go into this a little bit, I have epilepsy, which is, for people that don't know, I have seizures and I'm medicated for it. And it has caused anxiety in my life at certain points, where I'll have, like, I might not feel, like, right or something like that. Like, there's been times where I'm sick and then I get, like, kind of anxious about it because I'm like, I don't feel right. Is something going to happen? And I've used it then too. And it's really helped when, like, my heart starts racing, and, like, I kind of feel that anxiety, like, attack kind of coming on. If I'm able to keep my breath and, like, focus on going in and out very slowly, it helps me. So, like, I think obviously talking about the breath, it's not just important in sports, it's important in life when you want to just slow life down sometimes.
That's awesome. What a great point. How about in the game, right? What's a tactic that you'll typically use if you feel like the game is racing? You know, and I understand you're saying, hey, I'm going to focus on my breath and I want to slow my breath down, right? Is there a routine that you'll do when you feel that moment coming on?
Yeah, so it's when I throw 2 balls in a row. If I throw 2 balls in the row, obviously we have a pitch clock now. So sometimes it's a little hard to, like, be like, hey, I need a little second here. So what I'll do is very quickly I'll just wipe the rubber, and in my mind I think of that as, like, wipe it. It don't matter no more. Like, it's 2 pitches, reset. And when I wipe it, I get back on the mound and I take a little extra second, and I'm like, whatever, like, I'm not going to worry about the signs. Whatever the catcher puts down, I'm going to throw because I have confidence in that. So I throw fastball, cutter, slider. The cutter is very similar to the slider. They're both kind of gyro-y. One's just a little faster and a little bigger than the other. Or sorry, one's a little faster and then one has a little more movement than the other. So I'm confident in all those pitches. I need to be, because it's not like let's think of which pitch out of 5 is coming. It's like either it's straight and it's hard or it's dying.
Right.
So like having that confidence in that. I look and I take a little more time off that pitch clock and I take a deep breath, and it's like in and out, like, for like 3 seconds each. May not be, but it, like, feels like that for me.
Sure.
And that's just kind of my reset. It's a whole new game now. So
that's awesome. What a great tactic. I mean, to geek out a little bit here, so the breath out is actually the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve or vagus nerve is active during that moment in time. So what you're actually causing is acetylcholine to be released into your body, and it can bring your heart rate all the way down immediately. Wow. Whereas the inhalation is the period in time where the sympathetic nerve is active, nervous system.
Yeah.
And what you actually cause during that moment in time is excitation. So the heart rate will rise back up. Wow. It doesn't necessarily affect the heart rate immediately, but it'll affect the heart rate variability. So your beats within the beats, and the variation of that. The objective there, and what I'm getting at, is even a hold of the breath and then just a giant exhalation. You have plenty of oxygen, you'll be totally fine. Yeah. Right? The exhalation there can actually cause a huge calming effect.
That's so interesting. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know too much about all that stuff, but, like, hearing it and, like, being able to learn from other people when it comes to that, so interesting to me.
Yeah, and I think it's probably, whether it's beneficial or not for you to understand it, I think it's unbelievable that you have struggled and found these ways yourself, because those are the most valuable, right? And then when you can add little nuggets to what's already proven to work for you, you have these confidence builders built into them.
Did you ever see the video of Adam Wainwright talking about routine at, like, the
Oh, no.
Well, there's this one video where he talks about, like, the interesting parts of a routine and how important it is for you, especially as a pitcher, considering you're, like, you have the same, like, we want to be the same every day, bringing it out to the mound. And the interesting part that he talks about is how unique your routine can be. Everybody's unique, or everybody's routine is unique in a certain sense. Like, what works for you works for you. So that, like, breathing or whatever it may be, like certain, like, plyo routines or whatever. If it works for you, run with it.
Yeah. I think when people have routines. They're the only dangerous side to a routine is when it can transfer over to a ritual. And then if I can't do this or it's not perfect, I fall into this mode of, I'm not confident all of a sudden, right?
That's superstition.
So you need to afford this like sort of flexibility or mobility to this actual, the capacity here. But so looking forward, right, or actually, let me take a step back here. Something else that looking through all your stuff that I've realized, and obviously going through all these different bouts of adversity, you have a deep faith that you also have. Yeah. How much did you lean on that? Did it develop further during these times?
It's interesting because it's not newfound, but I did get into my faith later in my life from how long I've been living, but I wasn't raised religious or anything like that. My parents just kind of let me go about my journey, and then I faced adversity outside of baseball, where it was right after I attained that goal of like getting drafted and all that, and I hurt somebody that I really cared about, and I looked at it as like, look, you can find what you want with the goals aspect, but if you're not happy with who you are, then you're not going to find that true happiness, even if you are like in the job that you've always dreamed for and stuff like that. So I needed to kind of figure out like who I wanted to be as a man. And my best friend, Adam Holland, we've been friends for like 10 years now. His dad is the pastor at our church now, and he's always been there for me. Adam has always been there for me throughout everything from baseball to life struggles and stuff, and he told me to come to church. And when I went to church, I felt this like kind of overwhelming sense of like, this is where I need to be, this is what needs to where I need to go down. And I'm not saying that like everybody needs to like go down that road, but I think everybody needs to find what's gonna make them love themselves first, and being able to kind of dive into that and figure out who I wanted to be as a man really helped me just be able to find that love for myself and be proud of who I am as a person before I'm proud of who I am as a player.
What an incredible moment, man, and happy for you that occurred. So talk to me about some of the other identities that you have, right? Because it's not just baseball. You like doing so many different things off the field as well. And I think oftentimes for a lot of high school kids and even college, we get in trouble of making it the only identity we have is down to like, my identity is terrible right now. I'm a terrible human because I can't throw 93 miles an hour. And it's like, what? That's one microcosm of who you are.
Exactly. I think, another aspect is just I really like helping people. I know that, like, I'm a very, like, privileged human. Like, I've been given a lot in my life, and I'm grateful for every part of it. And understanding that even with being, like, a privileged guy, I go through adversity. I go through times of doubt and times of sadness. So imagine like what it's like in someone else's shoes. Imagine what it's like in people above me or people below me. Everybody's going through something. So I really took a liking to motivational speaking. So that kind of led into the podcast that I do now with Adam's one of the buddies, and then my other best friend Denari, and we do that. Basically the whole idea of it is we like to talk about the things that interest us, sports, like music, stuff like that, but we also tie it into a motivational theme for each episode, like confidence, like what type of traits for success, consistency, things like that. And I really love that because we're able to have a platform, and we're hoping to grow it. But we're able to have a platform where we can speak the things that we've learned in our lives to help us be better to the people that tune in and watch. And hopefully it helps them in their lives.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome. And it's, The joy of seeing others be successful is such an important trait. I mean, it's listen, anybody that works with us here,
Second to none.
yeah, they know that you could have 0 certifications, 0 qualifications, but if you can possess that trait, we can probably teach you everything else. Man, listen, this is by far one of my favorite podcasts we've done yet. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story and learned a ton. And I hope anybody who gets to experience this and listening to it takes away so many of the different things that you just dropped on us. So
thank you. I
really appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks.
It was an absolute pleasure being on here, and thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, 100%.